Let's talk some basketball with Stan. He is in Chicago. Your thoughts on the Phoenix Suns Nets trade, your thoughts on the entire Nets experience.
Well, I mean, the Nets experience was absolute chaos for 4 years. I mean, and that's why I think, like, even with Phoenix, and I thought Phoenix made a great move, and, they're going to go for it. I always applaud that. So it's good. But I think the proper response always to NBA trades and everything else is we'll see. Because on July the 1st of 2019, everybody was sure that the Brooklyn Nets were building a dynasty. Oh, that's it. How many championships are they going to win? And here we are 3.5 years later, and they won one playoff series and were no factor really in the league, were pretty irrelevant for most of those 3.5 years. You just don't know how things are going to work out. There's too many variables with injuries and with all the other things that can happen in terms of chemistry and all of that. So when I look at Phoenix, it should work. Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, it should work. They should be really good. I think the questions are, how quickly does Durant get healthy and how healthy does he get? Can Chris Paul stay healthy, which hasn't been a given as he's gotten older? And then do they have enough time here to really pull it together against teams who have been together all year? And you don't want to give away this season because Durant is getting older and has injury problems. Chris Paul's getting near the end. I don't know when it'll come. So it's not like you have a huge window, and I don't know how quickly it can work this year. But on paper, it's really, really good. On paper, you'd have them as the best team in the West right now.
You'd favor them? If I made you bet on who's going to win the title, who would you bet as the favorite?
Oh, no, I think the title will come down to the teams in the East. I think the three best teams are in the East. I think Boston, Milwaukee, and Philly are all better than everybody in the West, including Phoenix. And look, it's close. I like Phoenix's roster, but Boston, Milwaukee, and Philly will have been together all year, playing at a high level and, developing their chemistry and, their team defense and all the things that go with that. I'll take whoever comes out of the East. But I think the West is wide open, and I think on paper you would probably take Phoenix to win the West. I think the Clippers probably still have the deepest roster in the West, and Golden State's still the only team out there in the West where they know their core is capable of winning a championship. But we haven't even seen Golden State play well in spurts. I mean, they've played well at home when they've had everybody, but they've never even gotten on a 7 or 8 game run where there's a mix of home games and away games where you say, wow, this team's really coming on. And so I've got a lot of doubts about them. Denver's been great all year. If I had to pick a team to win the West, I would say the Western Conference Finals come down to, depending on how the brackets go, would come down to Phoenix and Denver.
But in saying that you don't think that Phoenix is even a top 3 contender, you would probably say, though, that team is the best collection of talent in the NBA, just sort of on paper. I know
I think he did say that.
Right, but
well, I do. I mean, it's especially their top 4 guys, and the benches become a little less important in the playoffs. I think the best roster top to bottom is the Clippers. I mean, I think that they go 11 or 12 deep with really, really good players. So I like them, but they also have not, even as they've gotten healthier, you see spurts of it where you think, wow, this team's really got what it takes. But then it just never seems to last for very long. So I don't really trust anybody in the West, to be honest. And I mean, even Phoenix, there's no way to right now say, oh yeah, that's the best team. We're just looking at names on a piece of paper, and who knows when Durant's going to play, and let's see what happens on the floor. I'm just saying it should work in Phoenix.
But where I wanted to go with that question was between them and even, Luka and Kyrie in Dallas. It seems as though more is being taken into consideration than just who has the most talent. I know that's always sort of been the case, but I think with the way that the Brooklyn experiment failed and the way that other sort of mega talented teams have failed, that it's not always just who has the most talent anymore, correct?
Oh, it's not just that. I mean, but look, the number one thing is talent. I mean, that's certainly the starting point. I mean, you can have all these other great intangibles, they're unselfish and they've got great chemistry and all this. I mean, that's all well and good. I mean, you've got to have the talent to start with. So that leaves you with a fairly short list of teams that are talented enough to win a championship. But yeah, then there's other things, and, the defensive end of the floor, and, and then the luck. Nobody ever wants to talk about luck, but luck's a huge part of it always with injuries and everything else. I mean, we saw Toronto win a championship, and a big factor in that, I don't want to take anything away from them, but Golden State had nobody left to play in that finals.
You just took something away from them. You took something away from them. You don't want to take something away from them, but you did take something away from them.
When Phoenix went to the finals and lost to Milwaukee, they're down 2-1 in the first round, and then Anthony Davis shockingly went down with an injury. And so they're able to come back on them. Then they get Denver without Murray and Porter in the second round, and then they get the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard in the Western Conference Finals. So, I mean, luck has a lot to do with it. And, people don't want to talk about luck, but we don't know who's going to get lucky here when we hit the playoffs.
On paper, do we need to update that phrasing in the digital age? Is it no longer the Phoenix Suns have the best team or the best talent on paper?
I'm willing to hear alternatives, but I think on paper is still the best way.
But it's not on paper anymore, right? It's not something we're using paper.
But like
less.
on your,
it is if you're Stan Van Gundy. Mine's on paper.
Mm-hmm.
I have the rosters in front of me on paper. So yes, it is for me.